Hey everybody, this is going to be week 29 of first and second grade science. So how have you guys been doing? How are you liking our classes? For the last couple of weeks, we've had quite a few mystery sciences. Those were always really fun. I like Doug. I like the way he explains things. I like the way he gets our minds working when it comes to science and some of these topics. And I really like some of the activities that they have us doing. So we've made the sun hat. We've melted candies to see which one would be safest to send to our friend at Sleepaway Camp. We've done, what did we do last week? Oh, our invention. We did our invention. I haven't seen all of them yet. So if you're watching this and you've done your invention from last week, you send it to me. Send me a picture of that. And then I wanted to talk to you about that just for a second. Part of our history lessons for the last 3 weeks of school are going to involve us doing another invention project. So all of you guys that are in first and second grade are at an advantage. You know what that means? It means you guys are already a step ahead because you've already used your brain and done some brainstorming and kind of thinking outside of the box to create an invention for science. Now, everybody else will be creating an invention as well. And Miss Jen will be the one that talks to you guys in history about that for this week. So if you've watched it already, you already know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't watched it yet, make sure when you watch your history video, you understand that it's not the same invention, and it isn't, it's just a coincidence. And that means it just happened to be that two different lessons around the same time both have us working on solving a problem and creating an invention. The difference is with our science experiment that we did last week, I really wanted you guys to just kind of go with the flow and think of some really crazy, fun, out there things. With history, we want you to really try to make something that is practical. That means something that could really work and help you out in your life. So you have good practice on making an invention. But when you listen to your history lesson with Miss Jen, it will make a little more sense about why we're doing an invention again. And it kind of seems a little sciencey, but when you know the reason, it all makes sense. So we had some good practice with our mystery science invention from last week. So make sure you send those to me too, the ones from science, because I really want to see those. So today is the last day that we'll be watching a mystery science. So let's get going with Doug. Okay, the first thing I want to show you is on your supply sheet. These are the supplies that you're going to need for this this experiment after. So when it talks about a hardcover book, that just means a book that you would be able to use that's heavy and it has kind of a hard outside. You might be able to find something that looks like an encyclopedia or maybe a hardcover book that you might have sitting on a coffee table. Sometimes we have music books that have a hard outside. It wouldn't be just like a really skinny little reading book. That would work too, but you want to make sure it's a little bit heavy so that you can really test your experiment. You need a ruler, and at home, you guys, if you don't have a ruler, you can just use a straight edge of something. It can be the straight edge of a piece of paper or a notebook or even a book. Or maybe you guys do have a ruler, but you can always make do and kind of figure out how to make something else work. Pair of scissors. Now, when we say index cards, this says 3x5. You can use any size index cards you have. If they happen to be 4x6, that's fine too. They can be white, they can be lined, they can be colored, doesn't matter. Just some index cards. I was talking about little cards. Paper clips. You're going to need 16. I don't know why it doesn't say. There we go. 16. Now, one cool adaptation you could make is if you have some bobby pins. If you guys have girls in your house that pull their hair back, like for dance or ballet, or you just use them to pull parts of your hair back, you could use bobby pins. Those will work really well. And then this is a paper. It's called the Paper Towers printout, and it looks like this. So don't look at it too closely, but that's the Paper Towers printout. You're going to want to print that out too. Okay. So you've got all your supplies going. As we go through the video, we'll listen to Doug and kind of learn a little bit. And then when it comes time to be able to do your hands-on project, these are the supplies that you'll need. So if you need to, go ahead and get those close to you. You can push pause and go and collect all the supplies and have them next to you. If you don't have any of these supplies, you can wait and do this video another day, or you can just watch and see what happened on the video. Okay, let's go ahead and watch our video.
Hi, it's Doug. Have you ever seen a building while it was still being built? If you ever have the chance, stop and look at one. There's something fascinating about it. It's like getting to see a building's skeleton. Now, buildings don't really have a skeleton, at least not like you or I do. But there's something similar. You can see what materials are holding the building together. Like, check out this skyscraper here. We don't often think about what a skyscraper is made of. But this material here is concrete, the same stuff that driveways are made of. And this material is steel, a type of metal. Or check out this house. Its skeleton is made of wood and bricks. Building materials like these, wood, bricks, steel, and concrete, they all share an important property which makes them so useful for building. They're strong. But that's not all. There are also easy materials to build with because you can combine many small pieces of them and make a bigger structure. Now, it's tempting to think that all buildings must be made out of these materials. And lots of buildings are, for sure. But people have come up with some pretty strange and surprising ideas of other materials to build with. Check out this house. It's called Casa de Botellas, or House of Bottles. It's located in the country of Argentina. Instead of bricks, this house is made from plastic soda bottles. They're stacked up and held together by cement. If you go inside the house, you'll find that even the furniture is made from bottles. Here's another house made of something unusual. Do you recognize this material? It's a house made of Lego pieces, millions of plastic Lego bricks. Even inside, everything is made from these tiny plastic bricks. Walls, chairs, beds. The House of Bottles and the Lego house show a couple of creative ways that small pieces can be combined to make something new. Can you think of any other materials you could use to build a house?
So if you have a piece of paper close by you and you want to jot down a couple of the ideas for materials that you could use to build a house, you can write those down, or you can just say them out loud to the screen right now. Or if you're watching with a sibling or maybe your mom or dad, what kinds of other materials could you use to build a house? So in the video, he talked about bricks, he talked about concrete. We saw that really cool house that was made out of soda bottles. Can you imagine? Do you think a house like that would work very well here in Utah with the kind of weather that we have? Probably be able to see through it a little bit too. That'd be kind of weird. But a Lego house, well, that would be cool. Those of you guys that play Minecraft, you know all about different materials to build houses. But have you thought of some? Let's see if some of your ideas are the same as Doug's.
I don't know what ideas you came up with, but there are lots of possibilities. Besides materials like concrete and steel, people have made houses out of all kinds of other materials, like this structure, made of straw, a type of dried grass. Or this one, made of dried mud. Here's a house made of snow and ice. And here's a tent, a simple house made of fabric. But now here's a material you probably wouldn't ever think of building a house with. Paper. Paper is great for drawing, but for building? When we think about the properties of paper, it doesn't seem like a great material for building a house out of. Unlike, say, this piece of wood, paper doesn't have the property of being stiff. In fact, it's just the opposite. Paper has the property of being flexible. It's easy to bend and fold. And unlike concrete, paper isn't known for being strong. You'd have a hard time making hard, solid blocks of paper. Again, just the opposite. If anything, paper's known for being easy to crumple. Now, that said, paper does have the property that it can be stacked. But it's not like bricks, which are easy to build things out of. To make a wall out of bricks, you need to lay many rows of them. To make a wall out of paper, you need to stack tons and tons of paper sheets. So it seems like paper doesn't have the right properties for building. But could you somehow change the properties of paper to make it better for building with? Like, take a look at this. It's what's known as origami, paper that's been folded to make a certain shape. This paper bird stands up on its own rather than flopping over. Likewise, the wings of a paper airplane stay stiff and flat when you fly it. Do these examples give you any ideas about how you might change the properties of paper to make it better to build with?
So how could you change the properties of paper to make it better to build with? What would you do? Did that give you any ideas? The little origami dragon, is it a dragon? What could you do to paper that might make it easier to build? What would you do? Any ideas? You go ahead and say them out loud or say them to the person that you're with. Here's our activity. Now this is really fun.
In today's activity, you're going to build a tall tower from nothing but note cards and paper clips. Then you'll take that tower apart and build a strong tower, strong enough to hold up a book. You'll start with 20 cards, which may seem like a lot, but if you just stack them like bricks, you won't get much of a tower. So you're going to have to think and experiment to come up with a way to make a lot of floppy, flimsy note cards become one big tower. I'll show you how to get started, step by step. Go ahead and get these supplies. You'll get your worksheet later. When you're done with this step, press the arrow on the right.
So these were the supplies that we talked about right before we started the video. You need 20 note cards per person. So if you're doing them with a sibling or someone else, you'll each need 20 cards of your own. You'll need 16 paper clips, and I gave you kind of a little, another idea, and that is if you have some bobby pins, you could use those too. You need a ruler and some scissors, and then you need a nice good flat space to work on. So once you've got all your supplies, you can go ahead and push pause if you need to collect those, and when you're ready, just let the video go.
Here's something to get you thinking. If you try to stand a card on its edge, it falls down. So see if you can figure out at least 3 ways to make cards stand up on their own. You can bend them, you can fold them, you can cut the cards. You can use paper clips too if that's helpful. Use your imagination. There's no wrong way to do this.
So with your 3 cards, try to think of 3 different ways that you could make your cards stand upright. So he gave us the example in the beginning of a folded origami dragon. So does that give you any clues about something you could do to one of the pieces of paper? Maybe some folding. Maybe you can create a new shape. If you were going to use your bobby pin or your paper clip, maybe you could do some kind of creating a new shape or twisting or folding. He said you could cut it. So use your imagination and see what you can do to make those three different note cards stand up on its own. So go ahead and push pause and work on that for a little while, and then go ahead and move on.
Find a partner and discuss.
So now that you're back, how did you make your cards stand up? What did you do? Now, we aren't in a group together to listen carefully to other people's ideas, but in our large classroom, we would have been able to see some of the other creative ideas to make those papers stand up. Did you ask maybe a parent or someone that's there at your house, an older sibling, even a younger sibling, if they had any ideas of how to make the cards stand up? Let's see what Doug figured out.
Here's a picture showing some ideas we came up with. Discuss.
So look at all those different shapes. There's 8 of them. Did any of you come up with similar ideas? Now this one, it looks like they took a little cut out and gave it like a kickstand, kind of like a picture frame. And that made it stand up. They did something similar here, almost like they gave it legs, like someone was doing the splits. This one looks like it was folded, and that V shape at the bottom helps the paper stand upright. This one, they did another folding, but gave it kind of like a poster board that you do for when you're making a science experiment. But what about this one? They made a triangle here too, but they folded it over and made it into, see, they used the bobby pin right there, or the paper clip, and they made it into a triangle, and then it would hold together. And then they made a circle here. That looks a little bit like a paper towel or a toilet paper tube. This one's really cool. Look at the way they folded that. Almost looks like a tent. And this one, they cut the card in half, and then they made a slit here, and they fit those two pieces. Kind of like you're putting some kind of a toy together. Were any of those the same kind of ideas that you had to make your 3 note cards stand up? I wish I could see some of the ones that you've thought of, but we are going to use some of those ideas, and you are going to now build a tower out of those. So depending on what ideas you had, if any of these seem like they might be better for tower building than maybe the ones you thought up, can you see why some might be better than others? Would it be hard to stack certain things on a few of these? It'd be hard to build a tower right here, right? Where would you put the other pieces? I can see how that would be a problem.
Okay, your first challenge. See if you can build a tower as tall as a ruler. Now, this might be trickier than it sounds. So don't forget, you can use paper clips, and you can always get help from your partner too. You don't need to spend too long on this. I'll set a timer for 5 minutes in case that's helpful.
All right, so this was where the ruler came in handy. Ruler is 12 inches tall. So you have all of your different, let's move this. You have your different cards. Now, how are you going to stack them to see if you can stack them on top and see if you can make them 12 inches tall? So we'll let that 5-minute timer run. Now, when the 5-minute timer's over, if you need a little bit more time, you can just go ahead and push pause and keep going. I know sometimes it's hard to work with paper. Are you refolding any of your note cards to make them into a different shape? As you're starting to stack them, are you finding out that some shapes just don't work as well as others? Now, it did say that you can ask a partner. So if you need help from a parent or from a sibling, this would be a good time to have a buddy to work with to help you do some stacking. I feel like we need some music for you guys to listen to. Maybe you can hum. Would you like me to sing your song? Good. It'd be so fun to sing that song. You guys remember this music from our class dojo? Well, that music might just put me to sleep. How about the active music? That one's fun. Those of you guys that have some of the other teachers, I know you use these too. How are we doing? Are you guys getting your towers made? There we go. Does that make it more fun? Looks like we got about 2 minutes left. Because it doesn't want to play anymore. All right, in this last minute, go ahead and get your tower standing. See if you can get all those pieces and that you can get it as tall as a ruler. Now, if you didn't have a ruler, you can kind of judge about how tall 12 inches is, about like that. And then use your imagination. Here comes your last minute. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
When you're ready, you can go to the next slide. Sometimes it's useful to see what ideas other people came up with. Stay where you are, but look around at other people's towers. Do you see any ideas that might make your tall tower better? Discuss with your partner, and then take a minute to try out some new ideas. These pictures on screen show some of the ideas we came up with here at Mystery Science.
So take a minute to look at those different shapes. Can you see how some of those are working? Some of them that have a good stable base, and then they're able to stack on top of that, gives it some balance and some stability. What about this one? Isn't that cool? Triangle. Here's another one that has the kind of layering and stacking. Different shapes. Can you identify what some of the different shapes are that they used? Looks like these are the ones that were triangular. Maybe those doesn't look like any of them were the circles. So which one do you think is going to be the sturdiest when it comes to building another tall tower?
In a few moments, I'm going to give you a new tower challenge. But first, get this worksheet and discuss these questions. Then fill in questions 1 and 2 on your worksheet.
All right, you hopefully printed off your worksheet. I want you to look at number 1 and number 2, and I want you to answer those questions. So what kind of paper pieces did you make to build your tower? And could you use the same pieces to build a strong tower? How would it work? So go ahead and pause right now, and you can complete those 2 questions, and then when you're ready, go ahead and move on. All right, using the same materials, I want you to build a tower that's at least 6 inches tall and hold up a hardcover book. So this is where you got that hardcover book out. You want something that's got a little bit of weight. So after you've built your tower and you've got it the way you like it, you'll very carefully set the hardcover book on top. So go ahead and push pause and get your 6-inch tower going. And then when you're ready, move ahead.
Think about how real buildings are built. Discuss. Then fill in questions number 3 and 4 on your worksheet. Afterwards, don't forget to watch the final video.
All right, so pull out your worksheet and can you complete those last 2 questions? Is making towers with cards different from building a real building? How do you think it's different? Very different, right? Is making towers with cards similar to building real buildings? How? How do you think that they would be different, or how do you think they would be the same? So go ahead and push pause while you complete those questions. And then when you're ready to move on, we've got another video.
In the activity, you built a tall tower and you built a strong tower. And you did it using the same note cards, the same pieces of paper. In real life, builders do the same thing. Using a building material like these wooden boards, they can create all kinds of different buildings. Buildings like cabins, windmills, wooden roller coasters, churches. What about paper though? Does anyone use paper to build things in real life? The answer might surprise you. As you saw, even though paper seems like it's really flimsy, you can actually change its properties. You can fold paper so that it doesn't bend, or you can roll it to make strong columns. Maybe you learned that you could cut it so that you could have a wide base to keep it from tipping over. There are some situations where paper is actually a pretty good choice for a material to build with. Check out these houses. They include some wood, but they're mostly made of cardboard, which is a type of paper. Here's a view as one of these was being built. You see the cardboard tubes there? This house was built for someone after an earthquake destroyed their first house. They lived here for a little while until they could build a bigger house again. Paper and cardboard are pretty cheap, so this was a great solution. If you take a piece of cardboard and you look at the edge, you can see something that makes cardboard a good material to build with. Notice how it isn't just one flat layer. It's two flat pieces with this zigzagging layer in between. The zigzags make the paper much stiffer and stronger, just like the folded cards in your tower. Paper gets stiffer and stronger when it's folded. Now, cardboard itself is a really fun material for building things with. People have used cardboard to make chairs, desks, and check this out. People have used cardboard to even make a car. A cardboard car is really unusual and probably not that useful, but there are a lot of sturdy, everyday things that are made from paper too. Boxes and packing materials, they're often made from paper. Tissue boxes, made from paper. Egg cartons are made from paper, and think about it. They keep something as fragile as an egg from breaking. Keep an eye out. I'll bet you'll find even more interesting things in your life that are made of paper. Have fun and stay curious.
All right, look at all those fun costumes that people have made. Now, one thing that popped in my mind, maybe you guys have seen this too, but usually in the summer, there are some groups that will have a cardboard boat regatta, and they'll build a boat out of all kinds of cardboard boxes and pieces of cardboard, and then they'll try to go out and take it on the lake and float it. If you wanted to, that's something maybe that you could look up. I just thought about that. It's kind of like the car that you saw, or even the houses. You can build all kinds of things out of paper. So how did you guys do? How were your towers? They fall over? Did that heavy book crush them? Or were you able to build a really strong tower? Now, this is an experiment that you can do over and over again. Now that you've done it once, you can kind of experiment with different ways to fold the cards. You can experiment with different ways to place them so that they could hold the weight of the book. And then as you answered on your worksheet, what was the difference between building a tall tower and building a strong tower? So you guys can take a picture of that and send it in to me, and I'll look at those. But I hope you had fun building those towers with your cards. And then what I wanted to show you now, let's go together and we're going to look. There's a video that I want to show you. Now this guy's name is Brian Berg, and he is a card stacker, a professional card stacker. So I've linked this website, and then there's a video that I've linked on your additional supplies that you guys can go and watch and look at the things that he has built from cards. You guys see these different towers and cities? Look at all the things that he's built. Do you guys think that takes him a long time? Do you think he has a really good understanding of how to build tall and strong? So you guys, that'll be linked there. You can go through and look at those a little more closely, a little more carefully. And then there's also a video. This is what it looks like. And he can teach you how to build a house of cards. So these are a little bit smaller than our 3x5 cards that you used. That's a really fun video that you guys can go through and look, kind of experiment. And then also on your extension activities, let's see, I gotta go. There's a couple here that I will also link, but there's some kind of fun ones. This is how to fold a hat. If you wanted to kind of experiment with building one of these cool hats. All different kinds of fun things that you can do with paper. And right now it's really fun to think about all the things that we can do with paper. There's a guy that's building a log cabin. Wasn't that interesting that those people built houses out of cardboard for victims of that hurricane? So really cool. Okay, so these are your assignments. You guys can continue to make towers with your 3x5 cards. You can watch some of those extension videos, kind of get an idea of what a professional card stacker does, or build or fold a fun hat. Or maybe you can build something. Maybe you can look up how to build or how to fold something like a paper airplane. Really make it fly. And I'd love to hear about what you did with the material, with the paper, and what you decided to do with it. So I hope you had fun, and I will talk to you next week.